Your local arcade or video shop in the 80s or late 1990s would always have certain titles. When I started really going in the early 1990s, Street Fighter 2 or one of its many variants, possibly even that hilariously unbalanced dodgy Rainbow Edition, would likely be around somewhere. Its chief rival, Mortal Kombat, would also feature somewhere, as would one of the myriad scrolling Konami or Capcom beat-em-ups, and usually you would find the odd nondescript vertically scrolling shoot-em-up, which would likely be 1942 because arcade machine buying boomers seem to love World War II like it's their first child or something. Get over it. Numerous companies tried to eke their ROM boards into these money-spinning cabinets with various levels of success, and I can assure you that these games I'm about to show you cannot have the word success attached to them unless you prefix that word success with not a. Let's have a look then at another gaggle of 10 no-hopers in the race for quarters and 20p coins and see if there's any gold in the trough of dodgy swill. Wits. It's the Tron light cycle but with Aardman's morph and he's using his legs. Published by Romstar, they of Arkanoid fame, and developed by Athena Incorporated, Wits was released in 1989. Much like the aforementioned Light Cycles portion of Bally Midway's Tron, you have to steer your avatar about the rectangular playfield, which creates a deadly wall behind you across 99 levels of obstacle out your arse avoidance chicanery. The thing that sticks out the most for me is the awful background art, which is uglier than a brawl in a flat-roofed pub at closing time. It plays exactly how you'd expect though, but with the added speed up button for daring partition shitters. It's a solid play with terrible graphics, and so I'm absolutely pleased to start with an OK game. If you like Bally Midway's Tron and stick figures that flick you the bird, you must give it a go. Ma'am, can I have Crazy Taxi, please? No, son, you've got Crazy Taxi at home. But it's Kamikaze Cabby. Yes, Japanese arcade giants Data probably raised their eyebrows a little bit at Sega at the arcade trade shows in 1999, as they had previously put out Kamikaze Cabby way back in 1984. Yes, there's a massive shift in graphical quality, perspective, character, and a decided lack of the offspring on the soundtrack of Kamikaze Cabby, but the premise is exactly the same. You have to pick up a customer and get them to their destination as quickly as possible. Then you can pick up another from a nearby corner and off you go again, dodging drivers of vehicles being just as erratic as you. In a very American city way of navigating the terrain, your destination is displayed in how many blocks you are away from your destination, with the game being over when you've run out of fuel. If you want to insert your own joke about the September 2021 UK petrol crisis, you can go ahead. I'm not aging this video any more than it likely will be. It's very of its time in terms of its looks, and it's no APB in terms of its playability or its variety, but it is still pretty enjoyable. Don't expect anything particularly special. Now go to your room, boot this up, and hum Way Down the Line to yourself if you really want to play bloody Crazy Taxi, you little shit. Now, I had never heard of Mug Smashers until it came up in an arcade challenge recently, and it is a startling experience. No, it doesn't involve a winter argument that ends in a violent altercation between a coffee cup and a wall. The mug in this instance is indeed referring to the Cockney word for a face, well, the word that isn't boat race. Yes, it's an arcade scrolling beat 'em up, done here in jolly old England, the birthplace of pugilistic hooliganism. Mug Smashers was made by 3D Games England, who made this 2D beat 'em up and no 3D games at all. It was released by Electronic Devices Italy, who also released a grand total of 3 forgettable titles, and this perfect storm of inexperience in Eurojank combines to make a rather shoddy looking beat 'em up with poor gameplay and laughable attempts at early 90s tude. It's bleeding mag smashes, in it! From 1990s attitude street violence to more 1990s attitude street violence with Playmark's 1994 Trash 'em Up Powerballs, which, well done for avoiding using a Z at the end of that title at least. 5 characters have had enough of life in downtown New York, most probably because their dogs look like this. Ugh. You choose from decidedly diverse, but not in a socially acceptably 2021 diverse way, crew of oddballs who take to the streets and trash street furniture by hitting balls at it. It's Breakout then, but with a horizontal view and tennis game mechanics. It's a nice idea, this, isn't it? But it is also extremely difficult, like really, really hard, like trying to maintain an erection during an episode of Cadfile or something. A vertical view or a slower ball could help, but this game is not for me. It's clever, but it's dog ugly, and it's really badly executed. A good idea, but a bad game. Staying on the subject of balls, here's a game that features balls, but most definitely is not balls to play. In fact, it's brilliant. It's a blend of Speedball 2, Windjammers, Super Dodgeball and Soccer Brawl, all good games, and that means that Heavy Smash is superb. It's from our pals at Data East again, and it's a wonderfully addictive little game with decent mechanics and a sense of future style that can only be imagined in the early 90s, what with all its Bret Hart sunglasses and its weird metal pitches with mysterious panels and weird stadiums and all. Its 1993 release date would seem to indicate this is a sort of game that was almost guaranteed to come out on a mid to late era Super Nintendo or Mega Drive, but it didn't. No, Heavy Smash was destined to be an obscure arcade title only. Definitely worth your time, but Japan, come on, that's not England's flag. You'll annoy people with funny accents and weird food. Play this though, it is really good. Do play Heavy Smash. IREM, of course, are very famous for the biomechanical space invasion nightmare that is R-Type, probably the most revered side-scrolling shoot-'em-up in history. And you can obviously see how they got to the horrific twisted designs of their later work here in 1983's Tropical Angel, a water skiing game set in the idyllic Southern Paradise Resort. I say it's idyllic, but all you've got is a water ski course that has not been maintained and is littered with dangerous jagged rocks, guaranteed to split open a nude shin like a watermelon dropped from the top of the Burj Khalifa. And near nude you are, as your bikini-clad avatar proudly displays the sort of butt cleavage of a middle-aged plumber with a cheap belt. Tropical Angel is as limited as you'd expect a water skiing game from 1983 to be, with limited scope for stunts and some wild careering from the speedboat captain, resulting in some unfair collisions as he yanks you towards rocks rather than avoiding him, like he's a villain from an episode of Columbo or something. It's not fantastic, this game, but it's not terrible. It's worth a go. It's another game from 1989, and as it's 1989, it's obviously going to be a scrolling beat 'em up, because I think that's all they released in arcades in 1989, seemingly anyway. We're in swords and sorcery territory here with, yes, Tecmo, the company that apparently likes putting their company name in computer games, once again doing just that. Your character appears to be a very suspiciously familiar type. Yes, he has got the look and the weapon of Tecmo's stablemate Rygar, but apparently this is never mentioned, so is he Rygar or isn't he Rygar? What he decides to do, though, is he decides he's going to ride a tiger into battle because, you know what, that would scare me. But what he can do is he can ditch the tiger in favour of what I can only presume is his dad, because he sits on his shoulders like a little kid at a concert. The difference between the two characters here is that when you're on the tiger, you've got a longer range with your, yes, that's definitely Rygar's little disc weapon, or you've got like your dad or giant or whatever who can get in and punch them real up close and tight like. Enemy trolls get really messed up by all this fighting, with their faces showing all sorts of damage, which is a nice if really gross touch. If you're very fortunate, you might find a dragon to ride for a couple of minutes that will deal out annihilation like your Nan doles out pink wafers and bourbons. It's a tricky beat 'em up, much akin to the patience-reliant gameplay of the arcade version of Tecmo's Ninja Gaiden. But there's enough neat touches to keep you hammering the F5, I mean, putting 20p's in. Yes. Action Hollywood puts you in the shoes of a granite-chinned movie star as he works his way through 4 blockbuster movies, one of which has the opening bars of Star Trek The Next Generation as its selection theme. Naughty, naughty. It's a gauntlet-style top-down slasher with the aim being to cover each floor panel on the stage. So there's a puzzle element in it too. I'm not sure how it works in universe. Does the director tell him that he needs to cover every bit of the set? Seems a little bit weird to me, but there we are. It's a pretty competent game with nothing here that is particularly offensive in terms of how it plays, but the aesthetic is decidedly Western meh and pretty mediocre for 1995. No one is playing Action Hollywood in a big old room that contains Ridge Racer, Tekken or Daytona, are they? Developers TCH released about another 4 other games before they folded, including the wonderfully titled but equally poor Kick Goal, and then they disappeared. Action Hollywood is as average an experience as a walk around a garden centre on a Sunday afternoon in February. Not really worth your time, but you know what? Give it a go. You might enjoy it if you're a bit odd. 1983's Guzzler by Bombjack creators Tekhan has you as a firefighting alien that combats fire by gobbing at it. Each level is a maze packed with incendiary foes who are going to need putting in their place, I think, by virtue of your well-aimed saliva. As he issues forth phlegm, the creature gets increasingly dry and empty, and must top up by drinking from puddles on the floor like a late-stage alcoholic on a brewery tour. Indeed, if Guzzler finds an alcoholic beverage on the stage, all the fire-based enemies freeze, the exact opposite of what usually happens when you have like a boozy late-night chip pan fire, which I don't think anyone seems to have anymore. What happened there? It's very hard to get these simple maze-type arcade games wrong, and Tekhan haven't. It's very good fun, and you should probably try it out. So go on then. Try out as soon as this video's finished. Don't go yet. We're at number 1, and I haven't had my obligatory dodgy foreign filth game, and now is the time to do it, but this time it's not from our friends at Comad. No, this is distributed by Gallico, our Spanish friends who gave us the Thunder Hoop platform series covered in the first episode, which you've probably forgotten about already, much like how the games were forgotten about. In fact, I'd never heard of them before and will never hear of them since. In Glass, you get to choose between nude pictures of fellas or ladies showing the Spanish have always been accommodating and inclusive of all perverts of all shapes and sizes as far back as 1993. Your goal is to cruise across the playfield, blasting enemies and uncovering the background, which there's no Flesh Scepter or Goatee Pac-Man just yet, unlike some of the other games that we played in previous episodes. No, you have to wait between scenes for these. That's the game mechanic though, you have to uncover the screen by flying over it and shooting. There's not a lot to it, but somehow it works.
The enemies explode in gruesome ways, and there's a level of creativity in their design which is commendable for a Eurojank game of the era. Bosses feature as well to add a bit of variety, and honestly, out of all the lewd games I've played so far, this is by far the most playable and fair one. There's absolutely no storyline reason for boobies and bollocks to be on display here, and indeed a version of this exists on the Evercade with all the hanging sex flesh removed as part of the Gaelco Arcade 1 collection. But you know what? You should have a look at these boobies, these fine 1993 boobies, and play this. It's really good. And with that, the bombshell of an arcade game full of nudies actually being pretty decent, it's time to bring this episode to a close, because I'm quite frankly as shocked as you are. There will be more games, no doubt, to be found in my MAME folder, so this occasional series will continue, perhaps a little bit later on. But if you want to see it, you should probably like, subscribe, and then I'll say K thanks, bye.